Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg here in Las Vegas. Good morning, Hank. How are you?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
Not too bad. I heard you had the Giants covered the spread on Monday.
Yeah, Philadelphia is not that good. And, I thought, Eli might do something. And he threw two really good long touchdown passes in the first half. And then in the second half, they had nothing left. And Philadelphia just was able to score enough to win the game, but not cover. But, the announcers are really bad on Monday Night Football. And, they kept talking about Philadelphia getting their rhythm back and all this nonsense. And they never mentioned the fact that, the Giants only had 17 yards in offense, kept going 3 and out, and the defense finally got worn out. The Giants' defense played well against their offense.
Well, it's a long season, and a lot of these teams are very disappointed in what took place, and they're going to play out the string. But that was a big game for Eli to come back and show a little bit. I imagine that this will be his last year. I don't think he'll go anywhere else. Do you?
I think he showed enough to encourage him to maybe go somewhere else. He still has a good arm, and he says that he doesn't want to be a backup anymore, and he doesn't want to be a coach. That can mean one of two things. He may want to go somewhere where with a good team that may be looking for a quarterback with experience. He may want to give it one more shot.
What's he, about 38 years old or so?
He's exactly 38 years old.
Okay. Be the same age as
Rick. I'll tell you this. He looked better in the first half than Brady's looked lately.
That's true. Some of these guys, they take a lot of hits. We see all these guys get banged up, and by the end of the season, all these games and practices and stuff, and it wears on you.
Eli doesn't get hit. He can get rid of the ball pretty quickly. And he's pretty smart. Wouldn't surprise me if he hooked on with some team somewhere that's looking for a quarterback with some experience.
Well, remains to be seen. How about that contract that
like Jacksonville?
Yeah, but back with his old coach, Coughlin's down there still. They need a new. They're going to have to get another coach, I suppose. They've been terrible. Just switching gears for a minute. Not that we want to switch over to baseball, but Garrett Cole got a hell of a contract yesterday.
Yeah, the Yankees coughed up a lot of money after the first pitcher signed and stayed with his old team. The Yankees came with a little more money than was originally anticipated. There was no question they were going to get Cole. He signed for 9 years. He's 28 years old, and that's a big signing for the Yankees.
Yeah, they go for star power. They got a lot of stars on that team, and the one thing
that's not star power. This is the best pitcher in baseball.
It's still star power. Best pitcher in baseball.
This is the best pitcher in baseball. Star power has nothing to do with it. This is the best pitcher in baseball, and the Yankees got him.
Yeah, well, we'll have to hope it turns out for them. They needed it last year. Now they got the pitcher. They got a lot.
That's what they felt they needed. They got plenty of guys on that team who can play, in the lineup, and they've got they had an aging pitcher there whose career is over basically, and they needed to replace him. That's what it's about.
Switching back to football, we got a game in the NFL this week that's very interesting. Dallas opened a 3-point favorite over the Rams, and I suppose the bettors didn't like that very much because they've been flooding in on the Rams and the Rams have now gone to a 1-point favorite. The game is in Dallas. It's a big game for both teams. Dallas wants to keep pace and beat out Philadelphia for the NFC East title, and the Rams want to get into the mix and perhaps make a wild card situation viable for themselves. And they crushed Seattle the other night, and so the momentum, when you look at the two teams and where they're going, I mean, the momentum is definitely Rams. They won their last two games convincingly. One, of course, was against the Cardinals, but and Dallas has just been losing consistently and looking bad in doing so.
Well, the Rams also beat them last year, and they held Zeke to 46 yards. So, and remember, the defensive coordinator for the Rams knows Dallas pretty well. They let him go, and he loves to beat them. And he knows their offense pretty well, and he knows how to come up with a defense that can beat them. And the Rams have played pretty well the last couple of weeks. The quarterback has all his receivers healthy. They've got the thing with the Rams is right now they've got. Last week they had the 5 sacks against Russell Wilson's. So their defense is against Russell Wilson. They shut out Seattle. Their defense, with Donald is good right now. Since they added Ramsey in their secondary, it's really helped their defense. They crushed Seattle. Goff threw for 293 yards last week and had 2 touchdown passes. They've their last 7 games, they've won 6 out of 6 and held those 6 to 17 points or less. The only team that beat them for more than 17 points was Baltimore. So the Rams are playing very well right now, and Dallas is not. Dallas did add a kicker in Forbath, but Chicago and Buffalo both beat Dallas easily.
Yeah, they did. They really did. And speaking of Buffalo, they go to Pittsburgh this week, and both these teams need to keep winning if they want to get in the mix in the playoffs. And Buffalo played Baltimore last week. It was a tough game. They lost the game, but they played competitive. This is going to be a slobber knocker type game. The total on the game, 37 down to 36.5. Obviously, the odds makers don't think there's going to be much scoring in this game. I agree.
Well, when I preview this game on ESPN, I'm going to give a stat that nobody else has got or given, and that is that every team that plays Baltimore the next week does not do well. Teams that play Baltimore are 3-8 the next week, and of the 3 who covered the next week, one of them was San Francisco, who gave up 46 points. The other one was the Rams, who played Arizona the next week, and the third team who came through after playing Baltimore was Pittsburgh. And this is Pittsburgh again. Pittsburgh has a good defense. They have Juju, and they've got Connor coming back this week. Their defense, the last 5 games, has given up 14.5 points a game. This is my special this week. I think that's a great stat.
It is.
Teams that play Baltimore get really roughed up. They have a tough time the week before, and they have a tough time coming back the following week.
That's a great stat. It really is. Now we have a new quarterback in the league that's done pretty well the last couple of weeks. Denver has finally got somebody that they're kind of excited about in Drew Lock, and they go to Kansas City this week, and Kansas City is coming off beating New England. I wonder if there's any little bit of a letdown off of that. And Denver has actually played pretty well this year. They've lost a lot of close games, and Locke seems to give them a little bit of energy. going in there as a 10-point underdog. What do you think of Locke so far?
Well, he played very well last week. He had 3 touchdown passes, and they beat Houston. He's 1-2. He's 2-0 as a starter, and now the number has dropped. You know, that game was 11.5. Now it's 9.5. And Kansas City right now doesn't have a lot of defense. They've got some injuries. Mahomes has got a bad hand. They say he's going to play. I don't know how healthy he is, but Denver's defense is good, and I think Denver's a live dog in that situation.
Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah.
Then, by the way, Denver can run, you know they're starting to come together a little bit late. But they were ahead of Houston at one point, 38-3.
Yeah, that was shocking. I don't know what Houston was doing, but I know that. I mean, I don't know. That was a shock. I mean, they're too good to play like that. But now, speaking of Houston, they got a big game going this week. They're now going to Tennessee, who is absolutely red hot, and they're both tied at 8-5. They're in the same division. And Tennessee's a 3-point favorite. The total is huge in that game, 50. Went up from 48.5 to 50. Houston, you know, they have a quarterback that's really, really good. Watson, I don't know how they lost and got way behind like that to Denver. I don't know. It's just a look ahead game, maybe.
Denver has a good defense. That's how, and they shut the Watson down. It's not the first time he's been shut down this year. He's been inconsistent. And he's missing one of his top receivers, and he struggles without him. That's how.
Well, I know you've been all over Tennessee. You've talked them up quite a bit this year, and they're playing great. Now that Tannehill got away from Adam Gase, he's really lit this team up since he took over for Mariota.
15 touchdown passes and only 5 interceptions. Tennessee has beaten Houston 3 straight times at home. Excuse me. So, and right now Tennessee is playing almost as well as anybody in the conference.
They're playing great.
Nobody wants to see them.
No, we got Derrick Henry running like he does, and Tannehill throwing that, and the defense playing strong. It's you got a couple teams, and we got New England bouncing back after 2 straight losses now, going on the road to play Cincinnati, 9 or 10 point favorite there, and you got Chicago going to Green Bay after beating Dallas. They're going to Green Bay, who's, you know, Green Bay is winning, but they're 10-3 on the year. You can't knock that, but they don't look like the same high scoring club that they used to be. They run the ball a little bit more than they used to. Aaron Rodgers takes care of the ball. He's not as dynamic as he once was. Of course, you know, he's gotten older also. But Trubisky had a good game against Dallas and a good final quarter against Detroit before that. Is he showing flashes of what he's supposed to be, or is that just a mirage?
Well, the wins have been twice against Detroit, once against Dallas, and once against the Giants. This might be a little bit tougher.
Oh, yeah.
But Green Bay, Jones is more than just a little bit. He's running the ball a lot. Last week, he's key to their offense. He ran for 134 yards, and he caught the ball 6 times for 58 yards. Green Bay has a good pass rush. They had 4 sacks against Washington. But they're not real good against the run. But Chicago, I didn't think they had much of a running game until last week. The top receiver is back for Green Bay. We'll see how this is a tough game to predict, actually. But Green Bay, Chicago has lost the last 3 trips to Green Bay, and they're 1-2 against the spread there. They lost one real close game there, and they got blown out twice.
Yeah, Green Bay's a tough place to play.
And by the way, they played earlier in the year, and Trubisky put up 3 points against Green Bay.
Now you got a team that got shellacked the other night. Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks ran into the Rams, and like we talked about earlier, the Rams have been red hot, playing great, and they're healthier now. But now they're going to go to Carolina, who fired their coach a couple weeks ago. Did not look too good last week against Atlanta, losing 20-40. Gave up a ton of points. Seattle, cross-country trip off a big loss. They're in a battle also in the West. They dropped down to number 5 spot. Seattle or San Francisco, off their big win last week, jumped into the lead in that division, and now they have the Rams on their tail as well. Big game for Seattle to bounce back, but they seem to be a little bit banged up. They lost Penny, which was a big loss in the backfield because he was really doing a good job. And Seattle, Russell Wilson, he gets hit a lot because their offensive line is not super. What do you think?
They're playing Carolina. Carolina's lost 5 straight games now.
Yeah, and they're obviously had a bad game last week, and they lost their coach. And I think a lot of the players liked Ron Rivera, and I'm not sure they enjoyed the fact that he got fired. But yeah, Seattle's in a big bounce-back spot. They're a 6-point favorite on the road, 48.5. 47.5 also. There's 2 numbers out there that you can find.
The team that really got banged up last week is New Orleans. It was, Breeze had a big game, but they lost 2 of their top defensive players, and they're playing without a couple of their key offensive players as well. And I think New Orleans, may not be in too much trouble this week, but they lost 2 key defensive players for the season. That was a very costly game for them, a costly loss. Put them in a tough position as far as home field down the line is concerned. And, defensively, they had been good all year until last week. But they are in critical condition injury-wise right now.
Yeah, they play Monday night against the Colts. New Orleans is 10-3. The Colts are 6-7, and New Orleans is an 8-point favorite. But there's some spots that have 9 and 9.5. There's quite a few numbers out there on this, and the total is 46. Yeah, that's a good Monday nighter. I'm not sure what to expect from Indianapolis. Vinatieri is now gone for the year. T.Y. Hilton has been missed a lot of games. Mack is supposedly back this week. At least that's
he played last week.
Yes, he did. They haven't been playing very well. Brissett has fallen off quite a bit from the beginning of the year. He's not as sharp as he was. But with those defensive injuries...
Well, I'm less concerned about this week for New Orleans than I am going ahead. They had been strong on both sides of the ball, and now they have serious issues on their defense. Their top pass rusher is gone for the season, top guy against the run, and they lose a couple of guys out of their secondary. They've got some real issues.
They sure do. Anything in college basketball you want to touch on?
Well, another number 1 team went down.
Yeah.
And they didn't look very good either. Louisville, Texas Tech. Texas Tech had lost 3 games this year, and they went against Louisville in Madison Square Garden, And Louisville was totally outplayed by Texas Tech, who came back to where they were last year. Defensively, they shut Louisville down pretty well. So that's the fourth number one ranked team that's lost this year.
Yeah.
And other than that, nothing significant going on.
Well, Texas Tech is well coached. They went a long way last year into the finals. And
they went to the final.
Yeah, they did. It was a hell of a game, too. And they got a good coach. And they lost some players, but they're going to round into shape. They're going to be very tough. When you have a good coach and you recruit well, eventually it all starts to come together. And it did come together yesterday. They did a good job.
Their best player was out last night, and they beat the number one team in the country. Louisville shouldn't have been number one in the country anyway. That was a joke.
Well, the good thing about the NCAA is the ratings don't matter. They have a great tournament at the end of the year that really defines who the best teams are. We got 4 teams. They've got the 4 teams all set for the college football playoffs. Any opinions on the early numbers that came out?
Well, I think Clemson is maybe a little better than people think. That'll be an interesting game. And LSU, this is the Heisman Trophy, will be presented Saturday. The television people are trying to build up the ratings on the show, but I think it's a cinch that it's going to go to the LSU quarterback. And I think Oklahoma is in a little bit of trouble. I don't like their defense, and their quarterback is kind of shaky. It has been for a few weeks. I think Oklahoma is actually the worst of the 4 teams. Yeah,
they were the 4th one to get in. When Utah failed and Georgia didn't come through, and Baylor didn't upset Oklahoma, there was no choice. Oklahoma got in. 14-point favorite, 13.5-point favorite, LSU over Oklahoma. Clemson is a 2-point favorite over Ohio State. Ohio State, they struggled a little bit early against Wisconsin. They struggled a lot early against Wisconsin and came back to win that game. They're a powerful team. They've had a great year. That's going to be a heck of a game. Clemson, Ohio State's going to be awesome to see. We got some good teams in there. It's going to be exciting. A lot of bowl lines are up. Notre Dame, Iowa State, Penn State, Memphis. Got a lot of bowl games and very exciting matchups. It's going to be fun, a lot of fun, very interesting, money-making opportunities.
I'll just say one thing about the early bowl games. The early lines weren't very good. There's been a ton of movement early.
Yeah, that's true. The one thing about the college, the bowl games is some of these players that feel that they're going to go to the next level, they decide to sit out. And you have to keep track of that because some of these numbers are made without that information, especially early. And then as it goes along, you hear here and there coaches moving, players deciding they're not going to play because they don't want to get hurt before the possibility of getting drafted into the NFL or making it to the NFL. So they make those choices. They're career choices. They're important, but they do affect the lines. So you got to keep your eye open for all that. I know you do, and so do I. Hank, anything else? Otherwise, we'll close it off for today. All right, well, thanks, Hank. And I know you did well last week in the NFL, and your contests are doing good. And continue the good work.
I took the lead in the Review Journal.
Awesome.
I'm 1 game ahead of Cornegate.
Well,
my record in the Review Journal is 42 and what the heck was it? 42 and 24.
Wow, awesome! That's incredible. That's an incredible number. Continue the good work, Hank. We'll talk to you again on Friday.
Okay.
Thanks. Everybody go to JimFeist.com for more plays from Hank and Jim and lots of good information. We're going to be following these injuries and players sitting out in the bowls, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the NFL we have to keep track of. There's players out. Evans out for Tampa Bay. It looks like Jameis Winston is going to play this week. Jameis has led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a lot of victories this year. He throws a lot of interceptions, but he also throws a lot of touchdown passes for his own team. It's one of the reasons Tampa has gone over so many times. They're going to play Detroit this week, and Detroit's on their third or fourth quarterback, who, obviously has a lot to learn to be in the NFL. Anyway, it's great that you joined us today, and hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you again soon.